You guys, Oda actually did it. He confirmed a theory that has been floating around in the community for quite some time now. Welcome in, guys. We got One Piece, chapter 1149, brief spoilers. My name is Sai, and today we are going to talk about what the hell is going on in this upcoming chapter of One Piece. If you have not read the spoilers for yourself, though, yet, I will be linking them down in the pinned comment below, as well as typing it out word by word so that you can follow along with me. So with that being said, hopping right into the chapter, we see more Scorper versus my man Saint Smers. And lo and behold, but Saint Smers doesn't stand a chance. Scorper beats this guy black and blue, and he incapacitates him by cutting Saint Smers into tiny little pieces. Saint Smers can no longer fight back. But here's the kicker. Saint Smers is still alive, despite being chopped into tiny pieces, despite being dismembered. Saint Smers is still there. What the hell is going on? I think Usopp-Oda was hinting at something massive when they called Gunkko and Smers zombies specifically, right? Because that is what Usopp said last chapter and a couple chapters back with Gunkko. So, yes, he truly is like a zombie. He's still there. He just needs to get, pieced back together, right? Kind of crazy. I wonder if Smers is actually taking damage from this. Like, does he feel the attacks? Because last chapter, when Smers got his hand cut off, he didn't scream out in pain. He simply looked at it and said, it's not coming back. It's not regenerating. So I do wonder, how do we actually hurt these guys? Like, even though Scorper has incapacitated him, he hasn't exactly beaten Smers because he's still just around? Like, how do you turn off their immortality? Do you have to beat Imu? Do you need some kind of special property still? I'm not too sure. And even in the spoilers, we're still not sure as to how Gabon is doing this damage to Saint Smers. How is Gabon still stopping the regeneration? My theory right now is still that maybe Scorper is infusing his own haki into Saint Smers' body. Like, maybe that's why he can't piece himself back together. But of course, that is just my idea, and I would like to pass the question back to you guys. How is Scorper doing this, and why will Smers not die? How do you actually kill a holy knight? So, on to the next bullet point, and I think this is the real kicker, right? We all kind of saw this coming. We talked about this last week, but Scorper's rampage cannot go on. He gets stopped by Gunkko. See, even though Scorper is overwhelmingly powerful, even though Scorper could probably beat all the God Knights here in one fell swoop, we gotta remember that he is a parent, and parents have a weakness. Gunkko actually holds Scorper's son hostage. Technically, he was already being held hostage, but Gunkko really does hold him hostage in this chapter, right? If Scorper were to go on with his rampage, Colin would get hit. And Scorper, of course, being a great dad, would not let that happen. So, he ends up surrendering after beating Saint Smers. I actually found another bullet point here. Let me just read it verbatim. But it says that Gabon tries to attack Gunkko anyways, but he uses Future Sight, and he sees Colin getting pierced by Gunkko's arrows, and that is why he does end up stopping and surrendering. Even with his Future Sight and speed, he cannot outpace Gunkko at this point in time, which kind of makes sense given how far Gunkko should be. We don't really know the distancing in this chapter exactly, but last we saw, Saint Smers was with the Straw Hats still, and Gunkko was seemingly way ahead of them with the kids of Elbaf. So yeah, Gabon cannot do anything even with his Future Sighted speed, and he gives up. After Gabon surrenders, Gunkko stabs him instead, and then throws him off of the tree. Brother, what? This is insane. Obviously we can't power scale off of this because she has hostages, but Gunkko seems fast. Am I wrong to say that? Gunkko seems really fast And she makes these quick-ass decisions, like, oh, I'm gonna hold his kid hostage, which I do wonder how she picked his kid out of the lineup. Like, Colin isn't wearing a shirt that says Gabon's son, so how does she know that Colin is that kid? Was that simply a good guess? Did she have some intel that we don't know about? Or was she just going to kill all the kids one by one? Because that's also a pretty good option, right? Hey, Scorper, stop her. I'm just going to shoot all these kids. And then one of the kids is, of course, his son. So as far as Scorper being thrown from the tree, I think this is a good thing. You know, I put quotation marks there because it's not good for Scorper. But when you think about it, this was a big theory for Ronya. But the minute they fall from the tree, you got to think about who's underneath that tree. And that is Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Loki, and the new Giant Warrior Pirates. The minute Scorper lands down there, one, I think they're going to break his fall. But two, that is when I think the boys will finally go up to the Sun Realm and confront these damn holy knights. Scorper's probably going to look at them and say, hey, save Elbaf, and then boom. You know, Luffy's going to do his thing, and he's going to run the gauntlet. So yes, Gunkko, you know, performing some pretty good feats here. And we get more of Gunkko in this chapter. Not exactly what I thought we'd get with 1149, but we get a flashback of Brook's past. Finally. Dude, finally. We've known this guy since Thriller Bark, and Oda is finally giving us his pre-Rumbar pirate flashback. So, we come to find out that Gunkko was, in fact, a Brook acquaintance. Yeah, you know, it has nothing to do with the Rumbar Pirates, it has nothing to do with Soul King, no. Gunkko knew the real Brook, the human Brook. And you gotta think about the timeline. Brook is damn near 90 years old. I think he's a little bit older than 90 even. You know, his age eludes me right now, but Brook is old, man. So the fact that Gunkko is probably the same Gunkko he knew back then is nuts, right? It confirms pretty much that she has immortality, she stopped aging, and we could look back at Smers and some other God Knights, we can say the same thing. And that's weird, because Garling exists, and Garling aged since God Valley. So I really do wonder, like, what is the criteria? Like, which God Knights don't age, which do age, why do some do, why do some don't? That is a big question, but that is not the main focus here. The main focus is the next plot point, because we see that Gunkko regains control of her mind, and she tries to help Brook. This is the theory I was talking about. The Gunkko mind control split personality theory. I'm gonna be honest, you know, I saw people talking about this back when we first saw Gunkko, and I didn't personally believe it. You know, because there wasn't a lot there. People saw the heterochromia eyes, and they said, okay, 2 different eyes, 2 different souls. And I said, okay, wait, I like it. You know, I see where it's coming from, but I needed more, right? I needed something where, like, Gunkko is walking, and then she stops and, like, scratches her head. If she did that, I'd be all on board. But we didn't get that. You know, all we had were the double eyes. But people took it a step further, even. They said, oh, but Sai, don't forget, during the reverie, Sabo and Cobra got hit with arrows. And I said, okay, like, I see that, right? But what if Imu just has every power in the world? What if Imu just has the God Knight powers? What if that was Imu's tail or his transformation? That's where I was at. But people really just said, Sai, no. That's Gunkko's arrow. And here we have it. The next bullet point. I couldn't believe it. I was in shambles, brother. This theory, man, you guys cooked. I'll admit, I was on the wrong side of history, man. It happens. The next bullet point says that Imu takes control of Gunkko's body and is furious because the Holy Knights are taking too damn long, and the Holy Land is currently burning and under attack. He's wondering where his soldiers are at. Where do we start? I mean, we're on the Gunkko train. Might as well keep on talking about Gunkko for a little bit. But now, it's all coming together. And I am wondering, is Gunkko special? I mean, obviously, she kind of already is, right? She already is special. But can Imu do this to other God Knights? Like Shamrock, for example. Could Imu take over Shamrock's body? Could he take over Smers' body, or Killingham, or Garling? Or is this a Gunkko-specific ability? That is kind of where I'm hung up at. We're not really super sure. You know, Imu feels like an evil spirit possessing Gunkko, you know? And the real Gunkko is still there. The real Gunkko is still underneath all of that somewhere. So we gotta find a way to separate Imu from Gunkko. Maybe that has to do with like some crazy Conqueror's Hockey Blast, kind of like what Joy Boy did back in Agate Island. I'm not super sure. But, you know, I want to see Gunkko being freed. And maybe, you know, hey, we're getting crazy with these theories, man. But I've seen people saying Gunkko for Nakama. And ask me 3 months ago, I would say 0% chance. But the real Gunkko is there, and she's trying to help Brook. So, it got some points in this chapter, brother. It really did. It's still crazy, but it's there. It's beaten. It's beaten. So, yes, is this a Gunkko specific thing? We have no clue yet. Also, this explains perfectly why Gunkko does not have the Saint title. It seems like Gunkko was a regular person back during Brook's human era, possibly in the same kingdom with him, possibly serving under the same flag. We do not know yet. We got to get more details when the spoilers come out tomorrow. But now, Imu says that the Holy Knights are taking too damn long. How? How are they taking too damn long? Brother, I get it, right? The Holy Knights appeared maybe 10 chapters ago. To us, 10 chapters is about 3 to 4 months. You know, the Holy Knights have been here for a damn minute. But in the world of One Piece, not a lot of time has actually passed. You know, if I had to put money down, I'd say that maybe an hour passed at the maximum, right? One Piece time moves slowly. Like, think about Dressrosa. 70 chapters, brother. That was all the span of a single day. You know, think back to Onigashima. That was one night. So, time is slow. But here, it looks like Imu's saying that they took too much time. What's going on? Is Imu simply a stickler? Does Imu not understand that they just got here? Or is the Elbaf time dilation theory actually correct? So, back when we first landed here in Elbaf, when we got Louis Arnaud's, I don't even know what to call it, his dialogue, right? His text. He said not to stay in Elbaf for too long. We never understood why he said that. But there have been a couple of theories out there, and the one I kind of believed in is that maybe one day in Elbaf equates to like 3 days or a week outside of Elbaf. Maybe time just works differently here. That is kind of the impression I'm getting right now. Like, maybe the Holy Knights to us were only here for an hour, but in reality, the Holy Knights have been here for like an entire day. And that is why Imu is frustrated. That is why Imu is mad. Like, guys, you're taking too damn long. We need you home. What is going on? But that is just my own personal opinion, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Do you think that the time dilation theories are true, or do you think there is another explanation for this? So now, on to the Holy Land, which is currently burning and is under attack. Who the hell is doing this? And also, it explains why Shamrock was sent back there. Brother, they needed Shamrock on the front freaking lines. So, who is doing it? That is the $1 million question. Is it Dragon and the Revs? Is it Blackbeard and the Blackbeard Pirates? Or Dark Horse? Is it red-haired Shanks? Honestly, they're all phenomenal picks. The last people we saw who were closest to the Holy Land was, of course, Blackbeard and Lafitte. Because Lafitte was watching the Bondolas go up and down, right? He was right there, and he was reporting back to the good old Marshall D. Teach. So I think Blackbeard is a pretty solid candidate. But there's also Dragon. And we last saw Dragon back during Agate Island, and he was still like Kamabaka Queendom. So I'm not too sure. This could very well be multiple factions at this one location. If I had to put money down, though, I think I would lean towards Dragon. Because they make the most sense, right? He was waiting for the Holy Knights to make their move, and boom. The Holy Knights are here in Elbaf. The Holy Knights are wondering what to do about the food situation, so Dragon goes there immediately. He goes there while Shamrock's not home. He goes there while Gunkko, Smers, and Killingham are not there. I think that makes the most sense. And if that is the case, if Dragon is finally doing something, that'd be really damn hype. Dude, if we see Dragon next week, that would move mountains. I mean, this chapter is already moving mountains, right? But Dragon finally fighting. The Rev... Well, okay, minus Sabo and Ivankov, the Revs are kind of not my favorite group, right? Karasu's cool, but, you know, I don't exactly get hyped about Bello, Betty, or Morley. Or even Lindbergh. But, I mean, Dragon's got a couple of heavy hitters, right? I still like him. I think Sabo's freaking awesome, but some of the Revs, like Jerome, that weird cow person, yeah, I don't know about them. But if the Revs are actually fighting, I think that'd be freaking crazy. Super hype. So now, the chapter ends with Imu's line. He drops it. He says, Mu will show you how a god rules over this world. And he's saying that as Gunkko, by the way. So that is where we end things. And here we have it. The final boss has appeared in Elbaf. I'm going to be honest. I think we might lose here. You know, I was scratching my head. I was wondering what big bad villain would show up here. Because if it's just these three God Knights, it always felt a little bit odd, right? Like, they were strong, but I can't see them beating Luffy. Like, that is always where I drew the line. Like, I just couldn't imagine them beating the Monster Trio. There's a reason why Oda put the Monster Trio plus Loki in the underworld and left him there. Without the regeneration, I just couldn't see them putting up a good fight against the boys. But now that their boss is here, things have changed. I think this might be very bad for the Straw Hats. I genuinely cannot stop drawing the parallels between Elbaf and Sabaody. Like, I just have a bad feeling about this. I feel like we might catch an L here. I don't know, man. I'm kind of torn on it. And I guess where I draw the line too is that this isn't actually Imu, right? It's Imu possessing Gunkko's body. So we could just find a way to sever the connection, right? Maybe it is like Insane Conquerors Hockey. Maybe somebody here in Elbaf can do it. But if they sever that Gunkko-Emo connection, then instead of having a big bad villain on the island, we're going to have a new Nakama on the island, right? We're going to have Brook's friend on the island. So yeah, it's pretty hard to predict what's actually going to happen. And again, you know, I've done this like 5 times already, but I would like to pass the question to you guys. What do you think about these spoilers? How do you feel about Elbaf's ending? I would love to hear about all of that down below. I'm just glad we have a big bad villain here, man. I don't know. You know, the God Knights felt great with Shamrock present, but the minute he left, it felt like they did not have a leader anymore. You know, it's just 3 co-workers running amok. We needed a supervisor here, and that is what we got. So, yeah, man. I guess the last thing I kind of want to end off to, this is not a part of the spoilers, but Sandman, last night dash yesterday, yesterday is last night, but Sandman tweeted out that Oda went on a radio show, and I'll go ahead and pull it up here on screen so you guys can see it with me. But Oda went on a radio show, the Shimofuti radio program, and it was revealed that Oda dislikes having future developments of One Piece predicted by theorists. And after hearing Oda's words, Uteron, who, if you guys are in like the One Piece, you know, theory realm here on YouTube, you've probably heard of Uteron despite not being in Japan, but he is a well-known Japanese One Piece YouTuber. He actually announced his retirement from theories. That's crazy. And the reason I bring that up is because, like I said earlier, Gunkko being possessed by Imu, that theory spawned the day we saw Gunkko's eyes. It didn't happen like right away back when we were in the Elbaf throne room, but it happened when they revealed the eyes and she didn't have the same title. People were like, yo, there it is, you know, that is Imu. Gunkko has a split personality and that personality is Imu. Like, those theories were everywhere, man. And I just gotta say, but it feels good to see that theory come true. You know, even though I didn't believe in it at first, it came true. And I think that's a big W. Now that we're nearing the end of the story, there's not a lot of wiggle room for Oda anymore, you know? Eventually, things will be predicted. And of course, because One Piece has millions of viewers, eventually, at least one or two people are going to have the right idea. People just keep on cooking up theories. You know, if you even have a simple thought about a chapter, that is a theory. If you think Imu will be the final fight to the series, that is a theory. People be thinking, man. And it's nice seeing the community get that W, but I would like to pass the question back to you guys again for like the bajillionth time. What do you think about all this? What do you think about the chapter? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow when we do get more details as to what is happening. But until then, you guys take care and stay safe till then. Signing out.